The night is alive with the fury of the sea, its waves crashing against the jagged cliffs of the Tidefang territory like a beast clawing at the shore. Picture a coastal expanse where salt and pine weave through the air, where the wind howls with secrets yet to be unveiled. Storm clouds churn on the horizon, their edges lit by flashes of lightning, distant thunder rolling like a drumbeat of warning. This is no ordinary night. The Tidefang lands, rugged and unyielding, hold a tension that prickles the skin, a promise of something dark stirring beneath the surface. At the heart of this wild domain strides Torin, alpha king of the Tidefang pack. He is no mere man, no mere wolf, but a force of nature, his black fur gleaming under the fractured moonlight, his golden eyes cutting through the mist like twin beacons. His massive form moves with purpose, each step a claim on the land he rules. The pack thrives under his iron will, their loyalty as solid as the cliffs that guard their home. Torin's chest swells with the pride of it, the weight of his crown invisible but heavy. He is their law, their strength, their unyielding protector. Yet tonight the air tastes wrong, sharp, bitter, laced with a scent that doesn't belong. He pauses on a high cliff, the sea's spray misting his fur, his ears twitching at the wind's low moan. Something is off. The pine's familiar tang is undercut by a metallic edge, faint but piercing, like blood on a blade. His hackles rise, a growl rumbling deep in his throat, a sound that could shake the earth. His instincts scream, danger, close, unseen. The territory, his skin, feels foreign, as if it's conspiring against him. He scans the shadows, the twisted pines, the fog curling like fingers over the rocks. Nothing moves, but his pulse quickens, his claws flexing against the stone. He is the alpha, invincible, unchallenged. Or so he believes. In the distance the storm grows louder, its thunder a challenge to his dominion. Torin's eyes narrow, his gaze sweeping the path ahead, a narrow trail winding through the cliffs where the scent grows stronger. He steps forward, muscles coiled, ready to meet whatever dares to lurk in his domain. A low snarl escapes him, a promise of violence to any who threaten his pack. But the shadows hold their secrets tight, and the eyes watching him, cold, hungry, unseen, belong to one he trusts. Varek, his cousin, his second, waits in the dark, his betrayal already in motion, a web spun with human greed and a shard of cursed obsidian. Torin moves toward the scent, his heart a drumbeat of defiance, unaware that each step carries him closer to a trap that will shatter his world. The cliffs stand silent, the sea roars its warning, but the Alpha King presses on, his fate sealed by the treachery of blood. The tale begins here, in the storm's gathering shadow, where loyalty frays, and a king's fall is only the first note in a song of vengeance and redemption.
Deep within the Tidefang territory, where the cliffs give way to secrets, a hidden cave gapes like a wound in the earth. Its walls, slick with sea damp, gleam faintly under the flicker of torchlight, the air heavy with salt and the low, restless roar of the ocean beyond. The storm outside gathers strength, its thunder muffled by the cave's stone embrace. But here, in this shadowed hollow, a different kind of storm brews, one woven from greed and treachery. The sea may rage, but it is the ambition of men and wolves that will break a king tonight. In the cave's heart stands Varek, cousin to Torin, second to the alpha of the Tidefang pack. His lean frame is taut with purpose, his eyes, sharp and cold as slate, glinting with a hunger that no loyalty can sate. His fur, a mottled gray, blends with the shadows, but his presence commands the space, a wolf cloaked in charm and deceit. Around him gather men, their faces weathered by sea and sin, poachers, hunters of beasts, their hands stained with the blood of countless kills. At their center is Gavyn, a man with a face carved from stone, his greed as palpable as the coin he craves. These are men who trade lives for gold, and tonight they have their eyes on a prize beyond imagining. Varek's voice cuts through the damp air, smooth as oil, sharp as a blade. He speaks of Torin, the Alpha King, whose strength has held the Tidefang pack like iron, whose golden eyes see too much, whose rule stands in Varek's way. The poachers listen, their breath catching as Varek unveils his plan, a betrayal to topple a king. He holds up a shard, no larger than a dagger's blade, its obsidian surface swallowing the torchlight, pulsing with a darkness that chills the soul. This is no ordinary weapon, he tells them, but a cursed thing, forged in secrets older than the cliffs, its poison crafted to burn through shifter blood, to bring even an alpha to his knees. Gavyn's eyes gleam, his fingers twitching at the promise of wealth. He asks what price a wolf king might fetch, and Varek's smile is a slash of triumph. Gold, power, land, whatever they desire, if they can deliver Torin, caged and broken, to the markets that trade in monsters. The poachers murmur, their greed drowning out the storm's warnings, their hands already reaching for nets and silver chains. Gavyn nods, his voice a low growl of agreement, sealing the pact with a handshake that reeks of betrayal. Varek's eyes burn with satisfaction, but beneath it lies a flicker of unease, a wolf's instinct, perhaps, that even traitors may one day be betrayed. The cave echoes with their plotting. The seas roar a distant chorus to their conspiracy. Varek gives the signal, a single sharp gesture, and the poachers move, their steps heavy with purpose, their weapons glinting with intent. The obsidian shard is passed to Gavyn, its weight a promise of ruin. As they slip into the night, the storm's first rain begins to fall, masking their movements, carrying them toward the cliffside path where Torin prowls unaware. Varek lingers a moment, his gaze fixed on the cave's mouth, as if he can already see the throne he will claim. The sea roars louder, a warning unheeded, as the trap is set and a king's fate hangs in the balance.
The storm breaks over the Tidefang territory, its fury unleashed in sheets of rain that lash the cliffs and churn the sea into a frothing beast. Picture a narrow path winding through the rugged coastal cliffs, where mist swirls like ghosts and the air hums with menace. The scent of pine is drowned by rain, but a sharper tang, metal, blood, betrayal, clings to the night. Torin, Alpha King of the Tidefang pack, strides along this path, his black fur slick with rain, golden eyes blazing through the dark. His instincts scream danger, his growl a low rumble that dares the shadows to show themselves. He is a king, invincible, the heart of his pack. But tonight the shadows answer back. The trap springs with a predator's precision. From the fog, a glint of steel flashes. A crossbow, its bolt tipped with a cursed obsidian shard, darker than the storm itself. The air splits with a sharp crack, and pain, searing and unnatural, explodes in Torin's side. He roars, a sound that shakes the cliffs, raw with agony and defiance. But the shard burrows deep, its poison like frozen fire clawing through his veins. His strength is Alpha's might, drains like water through sand, his legs buckling under the weight of his own body. The ground rushes up, cold and unyielding, as steam rises from the wound, the obsidian's curse burning hotter than any flame. Through the haze of pain, Torin sees them, poachers, their faces twisted with greed, their nets heavy with silver threads that sting his skin. Gavyn, their leader, steps forward, his stone-carved face unyielding, his eyes gleaming with the promise of gold. Torin's claws scrape the earth, his snarl a promise of vengeance, but the poison saps his strength, turning his movement sluggish, his vision a blur of rain and shadow. The nets fall, silver biting into his fur, and he thrashes, a king reduced to a beast, his roars echoing unanswered over the crashing waves. And then, Varek, his cousin, emerges from the mist, his gray fur untouched by the rain, his eyes cold as the sea. Torin's gaze locks onto him, searching for the brother he trusted, but Varek's face is a mask of triumphs, his silence louder than the storm. He stands unmoving, watching as the poachers drag a silver-laced cage forward, its bars glinting cruelly in the lightning's flash. Torin's heart thunders, not with fear, but with rage, a betrayal deeper than the shard's poison, cutting to his soul. He snaps at the bars, his strength fading, his world shrinking to the confines of his prison. The poachers laugh, their voices swallowed by the wind, as they secure the cage, ready to haul their prize to a fate unknown. The Tidefang pack, far from this cursed path, feels the absence of their alpha, their unity fraying like a rope caught on jagged rocks. Varek turns from the scene, his steps sure, his ambition a fire that burns brighter than the storm's lightning. He will return to the Stormhold, his voice already weaving lies of Torin's weakness, his failure. The rain pours harder, as if the sea itself weeps for its fallen king, washing away the blood, but not the wound of betrayal. Torin's golden eyes dim, but a spark of rage remains, a vow that this cage will not hold him forever. In the poacher's camp where his prison is bound, a girl waits, a spark of compassion in a world of greed, her heart a key to a tale yet unwritten.
The storm rages on, its wrath a cloak over the Tidefang territory, but the tale shifts now to a grim corner of this wild coast, a poacher's camp, carved into a rocky cove where the sea's roar is a constant snarl. Picture a cluster of crude tents sagging under the weight of rain, their canvas stained with salt and mud. Torches flicker weakly, spitting in the downpour, casting jagged shadows across the silver-laced cage that sits like a wound in the earth. Within it lies Torin, alpha king of the Tidefang pack, his black fur matted with blood, his massive form curled tight against the pain of the cursed obsidian shard still burning in his side. His growls are low, ragged, each one a battle against the poison that saps his strength, his golden eyes dim but unyielding. Into this scene of cruelty steps a girl, barely 12, her small frame nearly lost in the storm's fury. Mira, daughter of the poacher Gavyn, moves like a ghost through the camp, her storm-gray eyes wide with the weight no child should carry. She's grown up among men who hunt monsters, who weigh lives in gold, but her heart has never bent to their ways. Tonight, sleep eludes her, driven away by a sound that cuts through the rain. Torin's cries, raw and guttural, like a blade twisting in her chest. She huddles at the camp's edge, her thin cloak soaked, her dark hair plastered to her face, trembling not from the cold, but from something deeper, something that whispers she cannot turn away. She creeps closer, her bare feet sinking into the muddy earth, each step a defiance of the world she's known. The cage looms ahead, its silver bars glinting cruelly under the flickering torchlight, a prison for a creature she's been taught to fear. But as she nears, she sees him, not a monster, but a wolf, a king, his body racked with pain, his fur stained with blood and rain. Torin's eyes meet hers, golden and fierce, holding a spark of something wild, something unbroken. For a moment, the storm fades, the world narrowing to that gaze, a girl's quiet courage meeting a king's silent suffering. Her breath catches, her heart pounding louder than the thunder, as she sees not a beast to be sold, but a life to be saved.
The guards, drunk on cheap ale, laugh and curse by their fire, their voices drowned by the storm's roar. Mira's eyes dart to them, then to a hook by the fire where the cage keys dangle, unguarded, tempting fate. Her hands tremble, her pulse a frantic rhythm, but her resolve hardens like the cliffs that guard this cove. She cannot leave him here, cannot let this king die in chains. The rain masks her movements, the seas roar her ally. As she takes a step toward the fire, her small form a flicker of defiance in a world of greed. Torin's growl softens, as if sensing her intent, his eyes never leaving her. The storm howls, the cage waits, and Mira's heart decides, a single act of compassion that will ripple through a decade, binding her fate to a king's.
The poachers' camp lies drenched in the storm's relentless fury, a jagged cove where the sea's roar battles the howl of the wind. Tents sag under sheets of rain, their canvas flapping like wounded birds, while torches sputter, casting wild shadows across the muddy ground. At the camp's heart stands a silver-laced cage, its bars glinting with cruel intent, holding Torin, the alpha king of the Tidefang pack. His black fur is slick with blood and rain, the cursed obsidian shards poison searing through his veins, each breath a labored growl of defiance. The storm is his only ally, its chaos masking the small figure creeping through the dark, a girl who dares to challenge fate. Mira, no more than 12, moves like a whisper, her storm-gray eyes fixed on the cage. Her heart thunders louder than the sky, her small hands clutching the stolen keys, cold and heavy as the weight of her choice. The guards, dulled by ale and the storm's din, slump by their fire, unaware of the girl slipping past their glow. Her bare feet sink into the mud, her soaked cloak clinging to her trembling frame, but fear yields to a fire within her, a need to free the suffering wolf she sees not as a monster, but as a king. The cage looms closer, its silver bars a silent threat, and Torin's golden eyes lock onto her, dim with pain but sharp with instinct. She reaches the cage, her breath catching as she fumbles with the keys, the metal clinking softly, swallowed by the storm's roar. The lock resists, then yields with a click that feels louder than it is, the door swinging open with a groan. "Go," Mira whispers, her voice steady despite the tremble in her limbs. "Be free." Torin stirs, his massive form uncoiling, a low growl rumbling from his chest. His strength is a flicker, the poison dragging at his limbs, but freedom calls louder. He lunges, a blur of black fur and desperation, his body brushing past Mira in a rush of heat and power. In that frenzied moment, his jaws snap, grazing her shoulder, a sharp, searing bite that draws a gasp from her lips. Blood wells, warm against the cold rain, a tingling heat spreading from the wound, but Mira bites back her cry, her eyes fixed on Torin as he stumbles toward the forest's edge. The storm swallows him, his form vanishing into the mist and trees, a shadow reclaimed by the wild. Mira stands frozen, her hand pressed to her shoulder, the bite burning with a strange, pulsing warmth she cannot name. The guards stir, their drunken laughter faltering as the empty cage catches their eye. Shouts rise, torches flare, but the rain and wind cloak Torin's escape, leaving only Mira in the flickering light. Her small frame straightens, her gray eyes wide, but unyielding, as the camp erupts into chaos. The keys slip from her fingers, sinking into the mud, a silent testament to her defiance. The sea roars as if cheering Torin's flight, but for Mira, the storm's embrace is only the beginning of a longer, lonelier path, one marked by the wound that will tie her to a king across a decade of shadow and light.
The storm's fury holds the poachers' camp in its grip, a rocky cove where rain lashes the earth, and the sea's roar drowns all but the sharpest cries. Tents shudder in the wind, their canvas stained with mud, while torches hiss and sputter, barely holding back the dark. The silver-laced cage stands empty, its door swinging in the gale, a silent accusation in the flickering light. Torin, the Alpha King, is gone, vanished into the wild, but the cost of his freedom falls heavy on a girl who dared to defy greed. Mira, barely 12, stands alone in the muddy outskirts of the camp, her storm-gray eyes wide with fear and resolve, her small hand pressed to the bite on her shoulder. The wound pulses, warm and tingling, a mystery she cannot yet name, its heat a stark contrast to the cold rains soaking her thin cloak. The camp erupts into chaos, the poachers' shouts cutting through the storm like knives. Torches flare as men stumble from their tents, their drunken haze replaced by fury at the sight of the empty cage. At their head strides Gavyn, Mira's father, his face a mask of stone carved by greed and rage. His eyes, cold as the sea, find Mira standing by the cage, her small frame trembling but unbowed, her dark hair plastered to her face by the downpour. The keys lie in the mud at her feet, a damning truth. Gavyn's voice cracks like a whip, sharp and merciless, accusing her of betrayal, of throwing away their future for a beast. "You've ruined us," he snarls, his words heavier than the rain, each one a wound deeper than the bite on her shoulder. The other poachers circle, their faces twisted with scorn, their greed turned to venom, but it's Gavyn's rejection that cuts Mira to her core. She tries to speak, to explain the pain she saw in the wolf's eyes, the wrongness of his chains, but her voice is lost in the storm, drowned by her father's wrath. He towers over her, his hand gripping a small bag, her meager belongings, thrusting it into her arms with a force that makes her stumble. "You're no daughter of mine," he spits, his voice final, a sentence harsher than any cage. The words break something in Mira, her heart fracturing under the weight of exile, but her gray eyes hold a flicker of defiance, a spark that refuses to die. The poachers turn away, their shouts fading into plans to hunt the escaped wolf, leaving Mira alone in the rain, the sea's roar her only companion. She clutches the bag, her shoulder burning with the strange tingling warmth of Torin's bite, a mark that feels alive, pulling her toward a future she cannot see. The camp fades behind her as she stumbles onto a muddy coastal path, the storm swallowing her small form. Each step is heavy with loss, her family, her home, her place in the world, but the mark pulses, a whisper of something greater, a destiny she cannot yet grasp. Far away, Torrent runs through the forest, the poison still clawing at his strength, unaware of the girl who saved him, unaware of the bond he's forged. The rain hides Mira's tears, but it cannot wash away the weight of her choice, a choice that will echo through a decade of solitude, drawing her ever closer to a king and a land that will one day call her home.
The storm has passed, leaving the Tidefang territory cloaked in a heavy, mournful fog that clings to the coastal wilderness like a shroud. Picture a desolate expanse far from the Stormhold's cliffs, where twisted pines bend under the weight of mist, their roots clawing into rocky soil. The sea's distant roar is a low, constant pulse, its rhythm echoing the heartbeat of a king who refuses to die. Here, in a shallow cave carved into a jagged outcrop, Torin, the fallen alpha of the Tidefang pack, endures. His black fur is matted with dirt and blood, his golden eyes dulled by the cursed obsidian shard's poison still burning in his veins. Each breath is a battle, each movement a defiance of the venom that seeks to claim him. The cave's damp walls reflect his ragged growls, a sound that carries the weight of betrayal and the fire of vengeance. Torin is no longer the invincible alpha who ruled the cliffs, but a phantom, a shadow honed by survival. The poison saps his strength, turning his once mighty frame gaunt, his muscles trembling with every step. Yet his rage is a furnace, fueled by Varek's treachery, by the cold glint in his cousin's eyes as the nets fell. He hunts in the dark, his claws tearing into small prey, rabbits, gulls, his jaws snapping with a hunger that goes beyond flesh. The wilderness is both refuge and prison, its fog hiding him from poachers but isolating him from his pack. He dreams of the stormhold, of the great hall where his throne waits, now defiled by Varek's lies. Each night he sharpens his resolve, his growls avowed to reclaim what was stolen, to make his betrayers pay in blood. The memory of a girl's voice, soft and fearless, flickers in his fevered mind, a moment of kindness buried under pain, too faint to grasp. The poison clouds his Scots, but his wolf senses something deeper, a pull he cannot name. He stalks the misty forest, his golden eyes burning through the fog, each step a promise to return. Far away, the Tidefang pack languishes under Varek's tyranny, their loyalty fraying like a rope in the tide. Torin's heart beats with rage, a rhythm that echoes the sea's endless churn, a vow that this wilderness will not be his grave. The fog thickens, hiding his path, but the fire within him burns brighter, a beacon for a reckoning yet to come.
The years stretched like the endless coastline, each one a wave, eroding the edges of a girl cast out by her own blood. Picture a string of gray coastal towns, their streets worn smooth by salt and time, where the sea's breath clings to every surface, rickety docks, sagging rooftops, and the faces of those who call these places home. Mira, no longer the child who defied a poacher's camp, wanders through this transient world, her storm-gray eyes carrying a weight far heavier than her 22 years. Her dark hair, once tangled by rain, is now tied back, practical but unable to hide the weariness etched into her features. A small pack slung over her shoulder holds all she owns, a few coins, a tattered cloak, and the burning, tingling scar on her shoulder, a mark left by a wolf king she barely understands. The sea's constant roar follows her, a reminder of the night that changed everything, its rhythm echoing the pulse of a destiny she cannot escape. Mira moves from town to town, a ghost among strangers, her hands roughened by menial work, cleaning fish, scrubbing tavern floors, mending nets under the watchful eyes of sailors who care little for her story. Each job is a means to survive, each coin a step away from starvation, but none can fill the void left by her exile. Gavyn's words, "You're no daughter of mine," echo in her mind, sharper than the wind that cuts through these coastal streets. She avoids Miros, fearing the girl she might see, the one who traded her home for a moment of compassion. Yet the scar on her shoulder, hidden beneath her worn shirt, refuses to let her forget. It tingles, sometimes burns, a strange warmth that grows stronger with each passing year, pulling her to a place she dreads, the Tidefang territory, a land of monsters and memories she's tried to bury. She resists, settling in one town only to leave when the pull becomes unbearable, a restless ache that stirs in the quiet hours before dawn. In a cramped attic room above a tavern, she traces the scar's raised edges, its shape like a crescent moon, wondering what it means, why it calls her to a world she was taught to fear. The townsfolk whisper of wolves in the cliffs, of a pack ruled by a cruel leader, and Mira's heart lurches, torn between fear and a longing she cannot name. She's learned to hide, to blend into the grayness of these towns, but the scar is a beacon, a whisper of something greater, a life beyond survival. Her dreams are haunted by golden eyes, a fleeting memory of a wolf's pain, a voice she spoke to in the rain. Go, be free. The years have hardened her, taught her to mend her own wounds, to barter for scraps, to sleep with one eye open. But they have not dulled her heart, the part that acted without thought to save a stranger. Now, as the 10th year dawns, the Scar's pull is a tide she can no longer fight. Standing on a pier, the sea stretching endless before her, she feels it, a call stronger than fear, pulling her toward the Tidefang cliffs. The towns fade behind her, their gray streets no match for the wild promise of her mark. Somewhere, a wolf king survives, his rage a mirror to her resolve, their fates bound by a moment in a storm.
The Stormhold Fortress, once a beacon of strength and unity under Torin's rule, has become a cold, cavernous tomb. The Great Hall, where fires once roared and stories were shared, is now dimly lit by a weak, sputtering hearth. The air, thick with the scent of salt and pine, is soured by a new, heavy musk, the scent of fear. Varek, the new alpha, sits on the throne carved from driftwood and bone, his posture rigid, a king of a kingdom he usurped. He is not a true king. He is a manipulator who rules with deceit. His lean, gray-furred frame is always poised, his slate-gray eyes sharp and cold, watching every movement of the pack members who move through the hall like ghosts. He has poisoned their minds with the lie that Torin was weak, that he betrayed them by allowing himself to be captured by human trappers. He whispers that a human girl, a witch with dark magic, was Torin's accomplice, a venomous creature who stole his power and left him to die. A true alpha would never fall to a human, he pronounces in a voice that holds no warmth. He has declared all humans to be poison, a disease to be hunted and purged from their land. The pack listens, their fear of Varek's cruelty breeding a hatred that is easier to accept than the truth. They are tired of questioning, tired of resisting. It's a survival mechanism. Better to hate an outside enemy than to fight the one within their own ranks. In the training grounds, the young wolves practice with a ferocity born not from purpose, but from resentment. Their elders, once loyal to Torin, now repeat Varek's lies to their children, twisting the legacy of their true alpha into a cautionary tale. He failed us, an old wolf mutters to a pup. He put his heart over the pack. Never forget that. Any wolf who dares to speak of Torin's honor or question Varek's methods is met with silent scorn and is cast out, a lesson in loyalty Varek has made clear. The pack is slowly tearing itself apart, the strong preying on the weak, just as Varek intends. He wants them divided, small, and dependent on him, their loyalty shifting from their shared heritage to the fear of its new leader. This is his victory. As Varek watches from his high perch, a wolf approaches, eyes lowered in submission. He reports on patrols, on the dwindling prey, on the growing unrest among the border clans. Varek dismisses him with a flick of his wrist. "Our strength is in our hate," he says, his voice a low, chilling purr. "The wolves are weak, they need an enemy, and the humans will be our enemy. We will purge them from our land. We will become stronger than before." A younger wolf, overhearing, looks up in quiet desperation, but a harsh glance from an older pack member forces him to look away. The pack has forgotten its true alpha and its true strength. They are becoming something else, something monstrous, a reflection of the darkness in Varek's heart. The atmosphere in the great hall grows heavy with unspoken resentments. An older wolf, a female named Lyra, who was fiercely loyal to Torin, stares into the dying fire. Her eyes, clouded with grief, remember the warmth Torin brought to this place, the sense of family she now longs for. She sees the fear in the eyes of the young, the way they flinch at a raised voice. She knows Varek is a lie, but she is powerless to stop him. The truth is a luxury the pack can no longer afford. For now, she can only wait and hope that the legend of her true alpha is not entirely dead. Outside, the sea roars on, but within the walls of the Stormhold, only silence and suspicion reign. The stage is set for a violent reckoning, a storm that will either wash away the lies or consume the last flicker of hope.
After a decade of exile, Torin's paws finally touch the sacred ground of the Tidefang territory. The air, once so familiar and welcoming, now feels wrong, stale,
heavy with the tension he can taste. The scent of Varek's corruption, a mix of old lies and fresh fear, hangs in the mist like a poison. Torin's body, though hardened by years of solitary survival, still bears the scars of his betrayal. The cursed obsidian wound on his side is a dull ache, a constant reminder of his fall from grace. His golden eyes, once blazing with the light of command, are now colder, narrowed with the singular focus of a predator. He is no longer the king they knew, but a ghost returning to a land that no longer remembers its past. He stalks toward the stormhold, his stride silent and sure, but the pack's presence is everywhere, a hostile, unseen force. He sees a pair of young wolves on patrol, their forms barely visible through the fog. They are lean and wary, their eyes holding a suspicion he doesn't recognize. As he draws closer, they stiffen, their growls low and uncertain. They have been taught to fear strangers, to see an enemy in every shadow. When Torin steps into the open, his massive form emerging from the mist, their growls turn to snarls. "Who are you?" one challenges, its voice raw with distrust. "You're not one of us." Torin stands tall, his gaze sweeping over them, his wolf heart aching for the recognition that doesn't come. He is their alpha, he is their king, but they see only a bruised and battered stranger. He lets out a low, rumbling command, a sound that once calmed storms and settled disputes. But the young wolves recoil, their ears flattened against their skulls, their fear turning to aggression. They have been taught that such strength is a weakness, that a true leader shows no mercy. A third wolf, older and more cautious, emerges from the shadows. His scent is familiar, a pack scent Torin recognizes before his fall. The older wolf's eyes widen, a flicker of recognition in their depths, but is quickly extinguished by a cold fear. "Don't be a fool," he snaps at the younger wolves. "That's a rogue. We must report him to Varek." The word Varek tastes like ash in Torin's mouth. His cousin's name, a usurper's name, now carries more weight than his own. The pack's reaction confirms his worst fears. Varek has not only taken his throne, but has corrupted the very soul of the pack. They are no longer a family bound by loyalty, but a fractured, fearful group held together by lies. The young wolves surround him now, their snarls growing bolder, their movements a clumsy imitation of a proper attack. Torin, despite his anger, refuses to harm them. They are his kin, even if they don't know it. But their attack forces his hand. He dodges their clumsy lunges, a blur of muscle and instinct, his heart a drumbeat of sorrow and rage. He could tear them apart, but that is not his purpose. He is here to reclaim his kingdom, not to destroy it. But the pack, driven by Varek's lies, has left him no choice. They see him as a threat, and he knows that the only path to the Stormhold is through their hostility. He stands his ground, a king in a kingdom that has forgotten his name, as the sound of more approaching wolves echoes in the fog.
A decade has passed since Mira was cast out, but the coastal forest of the Tidefang territory still feels like a second skin. Here, the mist is a tangible presence, clinging to the twisted pines and dampening the forest floor. Every rustle of leaves, every snap of a twig makes her flinch. The air is thick with the scent of wolf, not the familiar scent of a wild beast, but something controlled, almost metallic, the scent of Varek's guards. She knows she's being watched, feels it in the tension of the air. Her fear is a cold knot in her stomach, but it is no match for the burning, persistent ache on the scar on her shoulder. The mark left by Torin's bite pulses now with an almost desperate rhythm, a silent, powerful call that has finally drawn her back. She moves with the quiet grace of a creature of the forest, years of a nomadic life having taught her how to be unseen. Her storm-gray eyes scan the shadows, searching for a path that feels safe, but there is no safety in this place. A pack member's snarl echoes in the distance, followed by a harsh human curse. The sounds make her heart pound, a reminder of the world she left behind, the very world she's been running from. The prejudices of her father's camp have been replaced by the ingrained hatred of the Tidefang pack, a hatred born of Varek's lies. She knows what they call humans: spies, traitors, poison. She knows what they will do to one they find in their lands. As she navigates a treacherous moss-covered path, a shadow detaches itself from the trees, then another. Varek scars. Their fur is bristly, their eyes cold and suspicious. They encircle her, their movements coordinated and sharp, their snarls low but full of venom. One, a massive wolf with a scar over its eye, steps forward. His eyes, fixed on Mira, are filled with a righteous fury. "Human," he growls, his voice laced with disgust. "Spy." Mira raises her hands in a gesture of surrender, her voice a fragile whisper. "I'm not a spy. I didn't mean any harm." The scarred wolf laughs, a harsh, grating sound. "Don't lie. You're Gavyn's spawn. We found your kind here before, trying to steal what belongs to us. But we're wiser now. We just caught a rogue on the border, and now you show up. You think we're fools?" He lunges, knocking her off her feet, and she cries out as her shoulder hits a sharp root. The pain makes her gasp, but the fear is what truly stings. They don't see her compassion. They only see their prejudice. The other guards close in, their teeth bared, their snarls growing louder. She is a pawn in a game she doesn't understand, a scapegoat for a king's betrayal a decade in the making. As they tie her hands and drag her roughly through the mud, she sees the glint of a silver chain, the very same kind that once held Torin captive. The irony is a bitter taste in her mouth. She risked everything to free one of their kind, only to be bound and condemned by the rest. They haul her toward the stormhold, toward a fate she cannot escape. The last thing she hears before the forest gives way to the fortress is the guard's voice, a chilling promise of what's to come. Varek will be pleased. We'll finally have answers. Now we can deal with you and your Alpha King. The words make Mira's heart plummet. Alpha King. They know he is here. They have him. And now she knows her long-feared return to this land has not just brought her back to the past, but has sealed her to a shared, uncertain future.
The Stormhold's dungeon is a pit of cold despair, a place where the sea's mournful roar is muffled by solid stone, turning into a low, perpetual groan. The air was heavy with the scent of mold, damp earth, and the raw musk of fear. A single torch flickers at the end of the long corridor, casting long, grotesque shadows that dance on the slick stone walls. Torin, the once invincible Alpha, is caged again, his powerful frame coiled in the corner of a crude cell. His black fur is caked with mud, his golden eyes burning with a rage that is as much for his capture as for the pack that betrayed him again. He is a king reduced to a prisoner, the whispers of Varek's name echoing in the dark, a constant torment. The heavy, groaning iron door at the end of the corridor creaks open, and a guard's cruel laughter echoes through the stone. "Found a friend for you, rogue," a voice snarls. The cell door slides open with a painful screech, and a small, cloaked figure is roughly shoved inside, stumbling to the cold floor. The guard slams the door shut, the sound of the bolt clicking into place, a final damning note. Torin's eyes, fierce and full of prejudice, narrow. A human, a spy. His growl is low and menacing, a promise of violence. He stalks toward her, his body language a clear threat. Mira, her hands still bound, looks up at the towering wolf, and her heart seizes. His golden eyes, though dimmed by pain, are the same ones she saw a decade ago. The scar on her shoulder pulses with a feverish heat, a recognition that runs deeper than fear. She knows him. He is the Wolf King she saved. But he doesn't know her. He sees only the enemy Varek has taught him to hate. His lips pull back in a snarl, his teeth a blinding flash in the dim light. "Wait," she whispers, her voice a fragile thing in the face of his rage. "I know you. I was the girl, the poacher's daughter." Torin's low growl freezes.
His rage clashes with a wave of something else, a flicker of recognition, a distant memory of a soft voice in the storm. His wolf senses, sharper than his mind, have already caught her scent, an echo of the human kindness that defied his pain. The scent is familiar, tied to a distant place and time, but his hatred is a decade old, a cold iron armor he built to survive. "Lies," he snarls, his voice a low vibration in the small cell. "Your father was one of them," she says, her voice steady now, resolute. "He captured you, but I helped you. In the rain, at the camp." She reaches a trembling hand up and pulls her shirt away from her shoulder, revealing the pale crescent-shaped scar. "You bit me. To get free. It's a mark." Torin's eyes lock on the scar. The sight of it is like a bolt of lightning, shattering the defenses he had built over a decade. His wolf, his very core, recognizes the mark, a powerful symbol of their fated bond that he had forgotten in his rage. The obsidian poison, for so long his only reality, recedes just enough for him to see the truth. The human he hates is the human who saved him. His rage gives way to a profound, sickening confusion. Suddenly, Varek's voice echoes from the hall, carried by the stone walls. "The pack is ready! Take them to the arena! Let the justice of the cliffs begin!" The sound of their shared death sentence pulls Mira's gaze from the mark to Torin's face. He stares at her, his golden eyes filled with the conflict she can't comprehend, torn between the hatred he's been fed and the undeniable pull of a bond he's just remembered. Their journey, once solitary, has now merged, and they're bound together by a single, terrifying truth.
The coastal arena of judgment is a hard-packed pit carved from the earth, surrounded by jagged cliffs that loom over the churning sea. The air, thick with anticipation and the scent of salt, is tense with the silent judgment of the Tidefang pack gathered on the high bluffs. They stand in hushed groups, their faces a mix of fear and cold curiosity, their loyalty to Varek's rule clashing with the whispers of Torin's past. A pale sun, piercing through the storm clouds for the first time in days, casts a single, brilliant shaft of light down into the pit, illuminating the two figures at its center. Torin and Mira stand side by side, their hands bound with silver wire, the cold metal biting into their skin. The guards who dragged them here have stepped back, leaving them to face the pack. Torin's golden eyes, now raw with the conflict of his heart, are fixed on the pack, his jaw set in a line of grim defiance. He can feel the pack's hatred for the human girl beside him, a venomous, tangible thing, and it stings him as a personal wound. He knows they see her as a spy, as the very poison Varek has taught them to fear. And for a moment, the old rage, the hatred that sustained him for a decade, threatens to consume him again. Mira, however, looks up at the sky, her storm-gray eyes squinting against the unexpected sunlight. A gust of wind whips through the arena, tugging at her tattered clothing, and her cloak falls away from her shoulder. The brilliant ray of sun catches on the bare skin of her neck and shoulder, illuminating the raised crescent-shaped scar left by Torin's bite. Time seems to slow. Torin's gaze, drawn by the sudden flash of light, falls upon the mark. He sees it for the first time, not in the dim glow of a dungeon, but in the harsh, revealing light of day. The scar, no longer a memory but a powerful, living symbol, is unmistakable. Its pale shape, so familiar to his wolf's instincts, pulses with a quiet power. It is not just a wound. It is the Alpha King's mate mark. The sacred bond, created in a moment of frantic escape, now a beacon of undeniable truth. The sight of it shatters the last of his hatred. The lies, the prejudice, the years of pain, they all fall away. In their place rises a wave of something ancient and primal, an all-consuming protective fury. This girl, this human, is his wolf, dormant for so long under the weight of poison and betrayal, roars to life. He sees the pack's hatred now not as a justifiable fear, but as a grave offense against his mate. The wire around his wrists feels like a minor annoyance. With a raw, guttural growl, he strains against the bindings, his muscles coiling, his golden eyes blazing with a newfound purpose. A collective gasp ripples through the pack above. They have been taught to fear humans, but they have also been taught to revere the mate mark. The sight of it, shining on a human girl, shakes the very foundation of Varek's lies. Just as the pack's unity fractures and a fresh wave of murmurs sweeps through them, a figure emerges from the crowd at the edge of the pit. It is an old man, his face a roadmap of sorrow, his eyes fixed on Mira and Torin. It is Gavyn, her father, a man who carries the weight of a decade's worth of guilt. He steps forward, his voice hoarse, and raises a trembling hand, holding a small vial. It's not a lie. He speaks the truth. Varek tricked us all. The poison is real, and I have the cure.
The arena erupts in a storm of noise. The pack, already reeling from the sight of the mate mark, is thrown into utter chaos by Gavyn's sudden appearance and his damning words. A wave of outrage rolls down from the cliffs as Varek's most loyal guards snarl and lunge, but they are held back by confused pack members who are beginning to question everything they have been told. The air is thick with accusations, fear, and a tense anticipation. At the center of this maelstrom, Gavyn, no longer a poacher but a father consumed by guilt, stands tall. His eyes, fixed on Mira, are filled with a sorrow that speaks of a decade of regret. He raises the small vial higher, its liquid a milky antidote to the darkness that has plagued them all. "Varek arranged it," he cries out, his voice cracking but resolute. "He paid us to capture Torin, to shoot him with the cursed shard. It was him. He betrayed his own blood for power." The words hang in the air, a truth sharper than any blade. Varek, watching from a high bluff, is a silent statue of pure fury, his gaze a dagger's edge of hatred. He knows his lies are unraveling. Gavyn's eyes lock with Torin's, a silent plea for forgiveness passing between them. He tosses the small vial. Mira, with a quick and practiced motion, born of her years of survival, catches it. She looks at Torin, her gaze a silent question. Without a word, he nods, his trust in her absolute. She breaks the vial's seal and pours the milky liquid into his mouth. The effect is immediate and profound. Torin's body convulses as the antidote works its magic. The cursed obsidian, which has been a burning poison in his veins for a decade, is purged in a wave of black smoke and agony. A low, powerful roar erupts from his chest, not of pain, but of a strength long forgotten. His muscles swell, his eyes blaze with a renewed golden light, and a surge of raw alpha power radiates from him, a force so potent it pushes back the surrounding wolves and makes them cower. The pack gasps in awe. They have not felt such a presence in a decade. This is not the tainted, broken wolf of Varek's stories. This is their king. Torin's eyes, now clear and unwavering, fall upon Varek. His past, his future, his pack's honor. It all rests on this moment. The wire binding his hands snaps with a flick of his revitalized strength. He is no longer a prisoner. He is a king with a righteous fury, ready to take back his throne.
The arena, a pit of red earth, transforms from a place of public judgment into a stage for brutal vengeance. The air is thick with the raw scent of adrenaline and the silent tension of a pack unsure of whom to follow. The sea's roar is a deafening backdrop to the impending fight, waves crashing against the cliffs as if in a final, frantic warning. On one side of the pit stands Torin, his magnificent black form radiating a power not felt in a decade, his golden eyes burning with a righteous fury. On the other side stands Varek, his gray fur bristling, his eyes wide with a mix of hatred and dawning fear. He's been exposed, and now his only path forward is to fight. "You are a coward." Torin's roar echoes through the arena, a sound that shakes the very stone. "You betrayed your kin for a throne of lies." Varek snarls back, a sound of pure malice. The pack deserves a leader who isn't tainted by human weakness. You are a fool to stand with that human. He lunges first, a blur of desperate rage, but he is no match for the true alpha's strength. Torin dodges with a speed Varek can only remember from his nightmares. The fight is savage and swift. Torin's attacks are methodical, each blow a culmination of a decade of bitterness. He aims not to kill, but to dominate, to show the pack the difference between a true king and a usurper. Varek is thrown against the arena wall, his body limp with shock and pain. The pack watches in a stunned silence as their tyrannical leader is defeated with a force and grace they have only heard about in legends. Just as Torin moves in for the final, humiliating blow, Varek's cunning takes over. He uses the last of his energy to feign surrender, but as Torin hesitates, Varek bolts, a frantic blur of gray fur disappearing into a hidden fissure in the cliffside. He leaves Torin to face the now fractured pack alone. A gasp ripples through the crowd. He is gone, but the threat remains. A new danger arises. Varek's most loyal guards, seeing their alpha escape, surge toward the pit. But a figure, a flash of aging humanity, moves to block them. Gavyn, who has been watching from the edge, pushes Mira behind him, his body a shield. "You will not harm my daughter," he shouts, his voice cracking. The guards, furious, fall upon him. Gavyn fights with the desperate strength of a man with nothing left to lose, but he is no match for their brute force. He falls, his eyes fixed on Mira, a final, silent plea for forgiveness on his lips. He dies a redeemed man, his last breath spent defending the girl he cast out. Torin's roar of grief and rage tears through the air. He is furious at Varek's escape and Gavyn's death, but he knows his focus must be on the living. He steps to Mira's side, and in a voice that holds the weight of a king's decree, he addresses the pack. "This human," he announces, his golden eyes scanning their faces, "is not my enemy. She is my mate. She is the Luna of this pack, and her loyalty is the only law I recognize." His words hang in the air, a direct challenge to every prejudice Varek has sown. Some of the pack members look on in awe, their spirits stirred by the return of their true alpha. Others, still loyal to Varek's teachings, snarl in defiance, their eyes filled with a new, bitter hatred. The victory is not clean, the pack is not united, and the battle has only just begun.
The wind howls a vengeful song over a remote, desolate corner of the coast, far from the sacred ground of the Tidefang territory. The hideout is a crude, rocky overhang, its entrance cloaked in a perpetual mist that whips from the turbulent sea. Inside, a fire sputters, its weak light casting grotesque dancing shadows across the faces of a new and monstrous alliance. Varek, the defeated alpha, is here. His gray fur is matted with mud and blood from his escape, his breath ragged, but his slate-gray eyes burn with a fire more furious than the storm outside. He is no longer a cunning manipulator, he is a force of pure, distilled vengeance. Before him, gathered around the spitting fire, are a dozen men. They are not the poachers he once knew, but hardened mercenaries, their faces scarred by violence, their hands calloused from the silver chains they used to hunt. Varek has a new proposition for them, a new lie to sell. He speaks not of a captured king, but of a broken one who has defied pack law by taking a human mate. "He is weak," Varek snarls, his voice low and laced with venom. "He has brought a human into our territory and declared her a queen. The pack is divided, and the throne is ripe for the taking." The leader of the poachers, a burly man with a cruel laugh, scoffs. "What's in it for us, wolf? You bring us nothing but your own failure." Varek's lips curl into a triumphant sneer. "I bring you a kingdom. Torin's law is dead. The land is yours. I will give you the Tidefang territory, its resources, its coasts, everything you ever wanted. All I ask for is Torin's head on a pike and the human girl's corpse at my feet."
The men murmur, their greed drowning out the warnings of the storm. The promise of an entire territory, a place rich with game and secrets, is a prize they can't resist. They have always hunted the wolves, but now they can take their land and claim it as their own. The pack, weakened by Varek's own tyranny and now fractured by Torin's return, is an easy mark. A simple alliance, a simple war. The poacher leader arises, a cruel glint in his eye as he looks at Varek. You promise us a kingdom? Good. We will bleed this place dry. Show us the way to the stormhold. We will help you take back what is yours, and we will claim what is ours. A cold, empty smile spreads across Varek's face. He has sold his pack's soul for a chance at a crown. He turns to the mouth of the cave, the storm's fury now a chorus to his vengeance. Let the war begin, he whispers, a promise of ruin. The men rise, their weapons glinting in the firelight, their footsteps echoing the beat of a coming war. The last flicker of hope for the Tidefang pack is about to be snuffed out by the very enemies Torin was born to protect them from.
The roar of the sea echoes through the open windows, a foreboding sound that mirrors the unrest inside. Varek's escape and his betrayal, once a secret, are now a public wound. The pack is split, a fragile thing held together by tradition and fear. At the head of the hall stands Torin, his black fur gleaming, his golden eyes filled not with rage, but with a quiet, unyielding resolve. By his side stands Mira, her small human form a symbol of controversy, her hand resting lightly on his arm in a show of silent support. You have seen the truth, Torin's voice, a deep resonance that commands the space, cuts through the murmurs. Varek did not fall to human weakness. He fell to his own greed. He sold our honor, our strength, for a crown of lies. And now he comes with an army of hunters, the very same men who put me in a cage. A ripple of fear goes through the pack. They have been taught to fear humans, but they have never faced an army of them. A younger wolf steps forward, his voice trembling. What about her? She is human. How do we know she isn't part of his plan? The question hangs in the air, a raw, painful challenge. Mira flinches, but Torin stands firm. He looks at her, his love for her a palpable force, and then turns his gaze back to his pack. Because she saved me, he declares, his words a powerful rebuttal to every prejudice. A decade ago, a small human girl defied her own blood to free me. She gave up her family and her home to give me a chance at life. The mark on her shoulder is not a wound, it is a sacred bond, and it speaks to a new law for our pack. From this day forward, our law is not blood over blood. Our law is loyalty over blood. The true pack is not defined by who we are born to, but by who we are loyal to. The great hall falls silent. The declaration is a challenge to everything they have ever known. Some wolves, inspired by Torin's conviction, let out low growls of agreement. Others turn away, their faces etched with doubt, their loyalty to Varek's old, hateful ways still a powerful force. They look at Mira, a human, standing beside their king, and they cannot reconcile the image with their traditions. Torin knows he cannot win this war with a divided pack. As the wolves begin to disperse, preparing for the coming battle, Torin and Mira share a look. He knows he has given them a reason to fight, but it's not enough. Mira, her quiet strength a beacon in the chaos, knows she must prove her worth. While Torin gathers his warriors, she moved with purpose, her eyes already scanning the great hall, seeing not a place of conflict, but a place of healing. She will do what she does best, what she has been doing for a decade. She will save lives one by one and prove that compassion is the greatest strength of all. The air is thick with the scent of pine sap and crushed herbs, a stark contrast to the tension that filled the room just moments before. Outside, the war rages, the cacophony of snarls, shouts, and the roar of the sea echoing in the distance. Here, a different kind of battle is being fought, one waged with compassion. Mira moves with a quiet, tireless determination among the wounded. Her hands, once roughened by a life of wandering, are now gentle and purposeful as she cleans gashes and binds limbs. She is a figure of serene focus amidst the chaos, her storm-gray eyes sharp with knowledge gained from years of self-survival. She applies poultices of moss and herbs she has learned to identify, her movements efficient and confident. A young wolf with a bleeding gash on his flank whimpers in pain, his eyes wide with distrust. A warrior in his pack, he has been taught to fear humans, yet here a human girl tends to him. She murmurs to him softly, her voice a calm in the storm, and as she works, his whimpers soften into a low groan of relief. A few yards away, an older she-wolf watches, her brow furrowed with skepticism. She's seen poachers with her own eyes. She saw them cage her alpha. Why should she trust this one? But as she watches Mira save another wolf, her mate, she sees the genuine care in the girl's actions. The doubt in her eyes slowly gives way to a dawning respect. Mira isn't just a human, she is a healer, a lifeline for their warriors. The true test of her new role comes when two surrendered poachers are dragged into the hall, their hands bounded, their faces pale with fear. The pack members snarl, demanding justice, but Mira steps forward, her voice clear and strong. They are no longer a threat. Leave them. They are wounded and must be cared for. A growl from a pack member tells her what they think of that, but Torin's decree holds them at bay. Mira kneels beside a poacher whose leg is shattered. He flinches as she touches him, expecting a blade, not a gentle hand. "Don't worry," she whispers, her voice filled with a familiar kindness. "I won't hurt you." As she begins to work, he looks at her in awe, his mind struggling to reconcile the monster he was told to fight with the human who is now saving his life. In this hall, Mira proves what Torin meant by loyalty over blood. She shows them that compassion is not weakness, but a profound strength. By saving both wolves and their human enemies, she is not just treating wounds, she is mending the deep-seated divisions of the pack. The Tidefang warriors, seeing their own kin and their surrendered foes being treated with the same care, feel their anger shift to something else, a shared purpose. Her infirmary, her quiet, unwavering courage solidifies their resolve. They are no longer fighting just to survive. They are fighting for a new way of life. The battle outside rages on, but the pack's spirit, once shattered, is now united and ready to face its true king's final trial.
The war for unity rages on the coastal cliffs, a brutal dance of man and wolf. The air is thick with the scent of blood and gunpowder, the sounds of roars and shouts lost to the deafening crash of waves against jagged rocks. Torin, a black blur of unbridled strength, moves through the chaos, a force of nature reborn. He fights with the calculated fury of a king, his golden eyes scanning the battlefield for the one who brought this ruin to his lands. He finds Varek at a rocky riverbank, locked in a brutal fight with a pack warrior. Varek, his gray fur matted with grime, snarls and bites with the wild desperation of a cornered beast. He sees Torin and shoves the warrior aside, his eyes alight with a final, consuming hatred. "You were meant to die in that cage," he screams, lunging forward with teeth bared. The final duel is swift and savage. Varek fights dirty, but his cunning is no match for Torin's restored power. Every blow Torin lands is a rebuttal to Varek's betrayal, a testament to the strength of a true alpha. Torin catches Varek's snapping jaws, and in one fluid motion, he throws him against a boulder, ending the fight with a final, bone-shattering roar.
He stands over Varek, his chest heaving, his eyes alight with triumph and sorrow. "You chose this," he says, his voice a low growl. "You chose this path of blood." Varek's eyes, wide with shock, go dim. He breathes his last, a king of lies finally defeated. As the pack sees their tyrant fall, their morale soars. A unified roar goes up, and they surge forward, a single powerful wave of black and gray fur. The tide of the battle turns instantly. The poachers, their master plan in ruins, are overwhelmed and routed. Amid the chaos of victory, Mira, tending to the wounded by the river, is suddenly faced with a final threat. A poacher, seeing her alone, raises his rifle, aiming at her heart. But a figure, a flash of aging humanity, moves to block him. Gavyn, who has been quietly fighting alongside the wolves, sees the man and his target. For a single fleeting moment, his eyes meet Mira's, a look of profound love and regret. He lunges, pushing her aside, taking the bullet meant for her. He falls, his body shielding hers, his last breath a whisper of her name. He died a father, a man who gave his life for the daughter he once cast out. The war is won, but the cost is heavy. Torin finds Mira by Gavyn's body, their hearts united in grief. The pack, battered but whole, gathers around them, their prejudice replaced by a dawning sense of respect and unity. They look at Mira, their Luna, with new eyes. She did not fight with claws and teeth, but with compassion and courage, and in doing so, she became the heart of their pack. The battle is over, but the work of healing has just begun. The scars will remain, but the promise of a new era is a powerful balm.
3 months have passed since the war on the cliffs, and the Tidefang territory, once a battlefield, now wears a mantle of serene winter fog. The jagged cliffs and desolate beaches are no longer a backdrop for violence, but a canvas for a new era. The air is crisp and clean, the scent of fresh pine mingling with the gentle salt spray of a placid sea. The scars of war are still visible on the land and on the wolves, but they are healing, softened by the quiet rhythm of peace. Under Torin's rule, the Tidefang pack thrives. His decree of loyalty over blood has become their foundation, a living law that has mended their fractured souls. Gone is the fear and suspicion that once poisoned their hearts. Now, in the communal clearings, pups wrestle and chase each other, their playful barks a joyful sound that had been silenced for so long. The older wolves, once wary of each other, sit together, sharing food and quiet conversation. The most profound change is the quiet integration of the surrendered humans, the same poachers who once threatened to destroy them. They live on the outskirts of the territory, working with the wolf to rebuild fences and gather food. One surrendered man, his face weathered but his eyes filled with a new humility, works beside a wolf mending a fishing net. There is no tension, no fear, only a shared purpose. They are a testament to Mira's compassionate law and Torin's unwavering vision. The pack sees that humanity, just like their own kind, is not a monolith of evil, but a mix of individuals capable of both cruelty and great kindness. Torin watches it all from a high ridge, his magnificent black form a symbol of their resilience. He stands with a calm confidence that has replaced his old rage, his love for Mira anchoring his rule and his spirit. The pack, once divided, is now whole, its unity not born of shared blood, but of a shared understanding that love and compassion, in the end, are the greatest strengths of all.
The great hall of the Stormhold, a place once scarred by Varek's tyranny and the blood of war, now glows with a quiet, vibrant life. The hearth fire roars, its light banishing the shadows of the past, and the air is filled with the low hum of contentment. In a quiet, sun-drenched corner, a worn fur rug has become Mira's domain. She is no longer the lonely girl who hid from a world of monsters, but a figure of serene authority, a pillar of wisdom for the pack she has come to call her own. The scar on her shoulder, once a symbol of her pain and isolation, is now a mark of her destiny, a subtle pulse of warmth beneath her clothes. Pack members, young and old, approach her with reverence, their trust absolute. An old she-wolf named Lyra, whose eyes once held suspicion, sits before Mira, her gaze now filled with profound respect. "My pup, he is strong, but he holds a grudge against the poachers," she murmurs, her voice heavy with concern. "He cannot let go of the anger." Mira listens, her storm-gray eyes kind and unwavering. She understands anger, knows the weight of it. "He must see that vengeance burns the one who holds it," Mira says softly, her words born from a decade of pain and healing. The poacher's actions were driven by Gavyn's greed, by Varek's lies. We cannot live in their shadows. Tell him that the strongest fight is not the one for revenge, but the one for peace. Lyra nods, her face relaxing as she accepts the counsel, a burden of fear lifted from her shoulders. A young male warrior approaches next, his brow furrowed with confusion. He lost his brother in the final battle and now struggles with his grief. He feels ashamed, as if his sorrow is a weakness. "I should be a leader now, but my heart is heavy," he confesses. Mira takes his hand, her touch gentle. "Grief is not a weakness," she tells him. "It is a sign of great love. A strong king knows that. A true alpha knows that. Your grief honors your brother's memory. It is a testament to the strength of your heart." The warrior's eyes, once clouded with shame, clear with understanding. Mira's work, her quiet acts of compassion, have bridged the divide between man and wolf. The infirmary, which started as a temporary necessity, is now a permanent part of the Stormhold, a beacon of healing that proves every life has value. She is their Luna, not by blood, but by her very soul, a queen who rules with wisdom, kindness, and a steady hand. Torin watches it all from a distance, a sense of profound contentment settling over him. He sees the way they turn to her, the way his warriors, once so proud and fierce, now seek out her gentle guidance. He realizes that his strength as alpha lies not just in his power, but in his ability to recognize and embrace the strength of others. Mira's human compassion is the very thing that has completed him, making his rule whole, his pack stronger than it has ever been. He no longer sees her as a human, but simply as a part of him, an essential piece of his being. The love he feels for her is a powerful, palpable force, anchoring his rule and his spirit. He knew when he saw the mate mark that she was his destiny, but he now understands that she is so much more. She is the heart of the Tidefang pack and the guiding light of their new era.
Atop the Stormhold fortress, on a cliffside balcony that once felt like the edge of the world, Torin and Mira stand together. The air is cold and clean, the scent of sea salt a familiar, comforting presence. Below them, the ocean is calm, its waves a gentle whisper against the rocks, a quiet song of a storm finally past. Torin, no longer defined by rage, stands with the quiet confidence of a true king. His black fur is a stark contrast to the misty world. His golden eyes, once filled with vengeance, now hold only a profound peace. Mira, the outcast who found her home, rests her head against his shoulder. Her journey from lonely wanderer to beloved Luna is complete, her heart full, her soul at rest. Her storm-gray eyes survey the healed territory below, the pups playing freely, the surrendered humans working alongside the wolves, a vision of unity that she helps to build. Their hands find each other, their fingers intertwining in a silent language of love. The mate mark, a pale crescent on Mira's shoulder, is a constant, tangible reminder of the night that bound them together. It is a symbol of a destiny they were fated to fulfill, a bond that defied all odds. They did not just find their way back to each other, they found a way to heal a broken kingdom. Torin's love for her is the anchor of his rule, a strength more potent than any physical power. Mira's compassion is the heart of their new law, proving that empathy and forgiveness can conquer even the deepest-seated prejudices. They stand together, a wolf king and a human queen, their love a testament to the pack's resilience and a beacon for its future. The story closes with them on the balcony, watching as the fog settles over their healed territory. The distant roar of the sea is no longer a warning, but a lullaby. Their journey, a saga of betrayal and vengeance, has culminated in a dawn of peace and unity. Their love, born in a moment of desperate kindness, has proven to be the most powerful force of all, a strength that anchored a kingdom and fulfilled a destiny.